Right now, an extraordinary legal development is sending shockwaves across the political and legal landscape. This morning, just after 9:12 a.m. Eastern Time, newly unsealed court documents connected to long-running litigation tied to Jeffrey Epstein were formally entered into the public record. Within minutes, legal analysts reviewing the filings noticed something explosive: a familiar and powerful name appearing inside those documents: Donald Trump. This is being described by experts as unprecedented, not because the case itself is new, but because of the timing, the context, and the way these records suddenly became public right now. These filings were not leaked. They were not anonymous claims. These are official court records, publicly accessible documents that anyone can verify. And here's why this matters. When names appear inside legal filings tied to high-profile investigations, it doesn't automatically mean wrongdoing, but it does immediately raise questions about context, about relationships, about timing, and most importantly, about what happens next. Stay with me, because what comes next will completely change your understanding of this story. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications. You won't see this coverage anywhere else. Because here's what you need to understand. This development is not happening in isolation. It is the result of years of legal battles, sealed records, and intense court scrutiny that have finally reached a turning point. Before anyone dismisses this as gossip, speculation, or political noise, let's go back and look at how this situation actually unfolded. Here is exactly how things happened. The legal saga surrounding Epstein began years ago, long before the recent document release. Following multiple investigations into his activities and associations, courts across the United States handled numerous civil and criminal proceedings. Many records in those cases remained sealed for years to protect privacy, ongoing investigations, and legal sensitivities. But over time, pressure built for transparency. Victims' attorneys, journalists, and public interest groups argued that certain sealed documents contained information the public had a right to see. Their legal argument was straightforward: transparency strengthens trust in the justice system. Eventually, a federal judge agreed to review whether specific records could be unsealed. That decision set in motion a long legal process involving careful examination of thousands of pages of documents. Lawyers on all sides argued about privacy rights, reputational harm, and legal standards governing public access. And then, just hours ago, that process reached a critical milestone. A batch of documents was officially unsealed and added to the court docket. Before anyone dismisses this as gossip, here's a critical point. These are court-certified filings, meaning they are part of an official judicial proceeding. Anyone can look this up and verify. Now, let's break down what actually happened. The first layer involves context. The name appearing in a legal filing does not necessarily imply wrongdoing. In many cases, individuals are mentioned as witnesses, acquaintances, or peripheral figures connected through social or professional circles. But here's the kicker. Experts say the way the name appears in these specific documents, including references tied to timelines and interactions, immediately triggered intense legal scrutiny. Things get absolutely explosive when you examine the second layer. These documents reportedly include deposition excerpts, sworn testimony given under oath. In legal terms, deposition testimony carries significant weight because providing false statements under oath can carry severe penalties. According to analysts reviewing the filings, the references involve historical interactions and alleged connections that were previously undisclosed to the public. This just got even crazier. What's going through your mind? Comment your honest take. Now let's examine the timeline. The events referenced in the documents date back decades. Many involve social gatherings, professional networking environments, and overlapping business circles common among high-profile individuals at the time. Legal experts stress this distinction repeatedly. Being mentioned in a document does not equal being accused of wrongdoing, but the timing of this revelation is what makes it explosive. Because we are currently in a political climate where public perception moves faster than legal conclusions. Drop a comment right now if you saw this coming. The third layer of this story involves legal interpretation. Former federal prosecutors explain that courts often release documents in phases. Each release can provide new context that reshapes public understanding of a case. And here's the critical point. Legal analysts reviewing today's documents emphasize that context matters enormously. A single line in a deposition can appear dramatic in isolation, but when viewed alongside full testimony, the meaning can change significantly. Smash that like button if this is making sense so far, because we're halfway through this explosive story and the most important implications are still ahead. Now let's talk about how this development unfolded this morning. According to court docket timestamps, the documents were posted shortly after business hours began. Within minutes, journalists monitoring legal databases noticed the filings and began cross-referencing names. Legal commentators say this rapid discovery is typical in high-profile cases where specialized reporters track court updates in real time. And then came the public reaction. Within hours, analysts on both sides of the political spectrum began offering interpretations. Some argued the documents raised serious questions. Others emphasized that inclusion in records does not equal legal liability. Pause for a second and hit the like button if you're finding value in this breakdown, because here's what makes the situation even more significant. The legal implications extend beyond any individual name. Unsealed documents can influence ongoing litigation, public perception, and even future legal strategies. Attorneys often analyze newly released material to identify potential evidence, patterns, or contradictions. Notice how this follows the same playbook seen in other historic legal cases. Document releases often trigger waves of analysis, public reaction, and strategic repositioning by legal teams. Now let's examine the broader legal implications. First, these documents could shape ongoing civil litigation connected to Epstein's network. Attorneys may use newly available information to strengthen or challenge claims. Second, the public release of these records reinforces a principle central to the justice system: transparency. Courts must balance privacy with the public's right to know. Third, the political implications are significant. High-profile figures named in documents often face intense scrutiny, regardless of legal conclusions. Stay with me. What comes next could completely change how this story evolves. Here are 3 specific things to watch going forward. 1, additional document releases. Courts sometimes unseal records in stages, meaning more revelations could follow. 2, legal responses. Individuals mentioned in documents may issue statements clarifying context or challenging interpretations. 3, media narratives. How different outlets frame the information can shape public perception dramatically. If this blows your mind, hit that like button right now. Because here's the deeper pattern experts are pointing out. High-profile legal revelations often unfold in waves. First comes the document release, then comes analysis, then comes clarification, and sometimes legal action. Understanding this pattern puts you ahead of 99% of people. Now let's step back and consider the historical significance. Legal historians say document unsealing moments often become defining points in major cases. They shift narratives, reshape investigations, and sometimes change outcomes entirely. But they also carry risks. Misinterpretation, selective reporting, and incomplete context can create confusion. That's why experts emphasize careful analysis, not assumptions, not speculation, analysis. Your thoughts always make the conversation better, so share your perspective below. Let's recap the key revelations. Newly unsealed court documents tied to Epstein were released this morning. The records include references to multiple individuals, including a major political figure. Legal experts stress that inclusion in documents does not automatically imply wrongdoing, but it does raise questions requiring careful examination. The implications could influence ongoing litigation, public narratives, and future legal strategies. And we are still in the early stages. More documents could be released. More analysis will emerge. More reactions will follow. This story is far from over. And the next developments could be even more explosive. Hit that subscribe button because you won't want to miss what happens next. Because in moments like this, understanding the facts, not the noise, makes all the difference.